You're listening to SFP-NOW.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of SFP Now right here on Sci-Fi Pulse Radio. Today's guests, we have two women that have created a new web series which is called You Only Die Once, YODO for short. And it's a vampire sort of comedy drama which basically tips its hat to Buffy and a lot of modern comedy dramas that are on TV right now, but it also lends its inspiration from Hammer films of the past. The two ladies that I'll be speaking to in a few minutes are Amanda B. Goodman and Teegan Curitz, who'll be talking about how they came to create the show and what have you.
I know her inside and out. In 1922, she tortured an entire men's choir and made them meet each other before catching a midnight showing of Nosferatu. Which is funny, because it's a vampire movie.
Okay, I'd like to introduce our guests this week to the show. We have Teegan Curitz and Amanda B. Goodman. They're the co-creators of an exciting new web series. It's kind of a vampire horror comedy called YODO, which is an abbreviation for You Only Die Once. Hi guys, how you doing?
Hi, Ian. Hello, thank you for having us.
Oh, it's great to have you on.
Teegan and I basically speak at the same time, always.
Cool. This is gonna be fun.
Much.
You speak at the same time, but you're not Siamese twins.
No, we are not Siamese twins. but we laugh because the reason we are such good partners because we literally share thoughts as far as production is concerned. Yeah. And we're always bouncing ideas off each other constantly. And unfortunately, we tend to talk over each other, which can get a bit frustrating. I have to be like, imagine us when we fight. That's certainly fun to watch.
Yeah, I think I'd probably build myself an Anderson shelter and hide.
Yeah. That would be a great idea, actually. I mean, you in the show and in the film we fight a lot, and in person it's usually on the friendlier side. It's usually creatively, and it's usually because we're thinking the exact same thing, but we're just not understanding that we're thinking the same thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of creatively get your wires crossed quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, I would say. I think if you spend enough time with a talented creator, enough time, you kind of you start to kind of energetically sync up. That's if you have the same kind of outcomes and dreams for your projects, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So YODO, it's very much sort of like the influences for it come from things like Buffy, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, it very much, I think, updates what Buffy the Vampire Slayer did in kind of putting that vampire story in the now. Buffy was and it just celebrated, 20 years, which is crazy because I remember it like it was yesterday. And, I started rewatching Buffy, and Buffy is so 90s, and You Only Die Once takes that same kind of, idea of, strong women and, monsters and humans living together, sometimes fighting, sometimes not, but kind of in the world that we live in today. And it was actually the film, which is now it's a show, was not actually based on Buffy, but I think because it was such a big part of my growing up that it shows. But I was actually influenced by kind of the Hammer horror films of like the 1970s, and then the show vampire films from the 1980s, like The Lost Boys and Fright Night, were just huge for me.
Yeah, I've actually met, a couple of the women that were in the Hammer horror films.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've met Carolyn Monroe. She was actually the only one to ever be officially signed up to a contract.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean, it just kind of shows, I think, the progress, and how women were such a huge part of what those Hammer films were, because they were a sign of kind of, beauty, but where were the character tropes necessarily? And again, I think that culture, and I think that's something that we're trying to kind of change. And so, I mean, and the Hammer films are just beautiful. So, of course, I wanted to kind of update that in a American way. Well, not semi. We are American. Well, I'm American. Well, Teegan, you're like honorary American at this point.
I guess I'm more of a New Yorker. I'm a child of the world.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm a child of the world. But Amanda actually introduced me to horror. I am completely freaked out by horror films.
Yeah.
I really am very scared of them. But she kind of, so when Amanda cast me in her film, and after she was done, I was like, Amanda, this is a series. And she was like, yeah, whatever. And then eventually she was like, it's a series. Will you produce it with me? And I was like, absolutely. So off I went to watch all these films, completely petrified. Mm-hmm. But I think what's so beautiful about those Hammerhead films and kind of all the nuances that we speak about in Yodo I'm an image girl. I love a shot. So the lighting and the shots are so beautiful. They're dark and colorful and interesting and scary, but riveting at the same time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually think in pictures. It's the way I think. If someone sort of like describes themselves as being on the phone, I sort of like envisaged them like a little Buddha sat on top of a phone. It's just the way I think.
It's very funny.
But so I can definitely relate there from the setting up and layout of a shot.
Absolutely, and we're all about that throughout the whole production process. Amanda and I were geeking out about stills from other things that are currently on TV that are popular, and then also, as we said, horror films from the 70s and the 80s, which we kind of would send to each other over social media networks and all that.
And it's interesting because, when we talk about color and how different that was, especially for the Hammer horror films, and even I think films of the 80s, like, Evil Dead, is that when I was making the film, and even now when I'm, as I'm in post-production for the series, my blood, and everything in the show, but especially the blood, has a very specific color to it. And the blood in those films always had this brightness to it. And so, like, I would, like, show, like, I guess you could say snobby film person. They exist, who are, like, they're very technical and down to earth in the real world. They'd be like, that blood is not that color. And I'm like, well, you know what? Watch this movie. Blood is this color in the
I said that to you a few times.
You did say that until I, like, forced you to realize, listen, there's a reason the blood is so bright.
Right.
I got a question for you about your vampires in Yodo. They don't turn into glitter when they're exposed to sunlight, do they? Please say no.
Do they turn into glitter, did you ask?
Yeah, does their skin turn into...
Absolutely. God, no. God, no. God, no. That was, I think that was probably our number one pet peeve hate.
Yeah.
Vampire hates.
Yeah,
vampires are... So it's, if you can imagine, it's, humans and creatures of the dead living together in Queens. It's like a very bizarre, but almost like very comfortable mashup of their lives.
It's like a vampire sitcom in a way. Like when I kind of think about it, it's like a vampire sitcom with very dark, disturbing moments thrown throughout it. I think that's kind of, when I think about it, that's kind of what it's become in a way.
Right. So my stepbrother in the show, he gets turned, and he's a vampire. So, but we call him a good vampire, and we have like all these tactics to help him kind of not feed off things that he shouldn't be feeding on, So there's fun little nuances in the show about that.
That sounds like, no, you can't feed off the neighbour's dog.
Yes, yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the actual sort of like storyline of the without giving too much away? How did the story come about, and what's kind of the storyline of Yoda?
Yeah. Well, with the film, again, I was taking great influence from, the Hammer films and specifically Dracula, and I kind of wanted to do sort of an updated version of Dracula. I can't even say the name of the film, Dracula. It's a tongue twister, clearly. I wanted to do an updated version of that, but kind of twisting it a little bit and allowing, females to kind of have the forefront. And so the film version, which we kind of call our pilot, which is up on YouTube right now, is about 3 lifelong best friends and vampire hunters from Queens, New York. And one of them, her boyfriend, is turned into a vampire, and he tries to be this Dracula-esque, sexy, badass vampire, but he's really bad at it. And the whole kind of film is about their coming together as a team when they're basically fighting over who gets to kill him. There's so many kind of fun characters thrown throughout. And then the series kind of picks up a little bit where the film left off, but it's not in a way that, like, you don't see the film, you won't get it. But there are jokes that you definitely should see the pilot before you watch the series. And, again, we pick up in the show with our 3 best friends, and they kind of learn that someone from their past is a threat to them and is trying to basically kill them, which, in vampire films, that's basically it. And we have a secret killer, too, that, pops in there. So there's a lot of, I think, there's a mesh of different tropes from different films. I played with the Italian style of the Giallo horror film a little bit, too. So there's a lot going on, but the trailer gives you a pretty good idea of the story, I think.
Yeah, I kind of watched the trailer and was, found myself quite amused by some of the humour there.
Cool.
Kind of watched the trailer, last night about 5 minutes before we was sort of like, because obviously we had to reschedule because of the storm and everything.
Yes.
Right.
So about 20 minutes before I was due to do this thing yesterday, I sort of like checked out the trailer, and it looks pretty cool. Kind of wanting to try and put some time aside so I can actually go have a look at the film on YouTube later on.
Yeah, absolutely do. It so the film, it's so beautifully it really is stylized. I recently watched it, but a thing that was very important to me being involved in the production of this was that that our new 6 episodes would have to be of a very competitive, edgy nature, and we really achieved that, I feel, I feel it's so wonderfully visible in the trailer, and such wonderful things happen in the series. They go to this like fantastic dress up party where they're all dressed up as characters from Fright Night, and just so Amanda's character and my character and our other main lead, Jamie, played by Jen Keefe, our dynamic is just kind of brilliant. We play board games with vampires. It's all quite bizarre and quite lovely, and
that's what you do on a Friday night.
Because that's what you do on a Friday night. Yeah, exactly.
With vampires, that's like normal.
Yeah, I'm usually in a dingy pub shredding guitar, but
yeah, right. See, so everybody's got their thing.
Well, one of my lines in the show is why can't we all just be belligerent and act like everyone else our age? Yeah. So I feel you with the pub. So the girls' reality is that they feel this need to kind of look after the people around them and the ones they love, but they're also young and in their 20s and like want to have a good time. So it's very relatable. And I think what's awesome is that there's this, when I moved to America, I didn't understand the comedy, and I was like, what's going on here? Like, why are people laughing at people falling? Like, it's the most bizarre thing ever. And I met Amanda, and Amanda just writes very cleverly, and it's almost like, I'd like to call it, what I always say to you, it's kind of like this fully packed monologue, a mix between Kimmy Schmidt, 30 Rock, Broad City, but also like women just being like normal people. Like, it doesn't matter. They don't have to be all perfect and gorgeous. And I think that's also very important for the political climates we both live in for today. We need to be the change we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
That was very well put, Teegan. I thought you were going to go in a different direction. I thought you were going to say, and I met Amanda, and she just falls all the time, and I just thought it was really funny.
She does fall all the time. She is so clumsy. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very irritating.
One of the big marketing points you said about the film and the series in your initial email to me was the fact that it's very, very accessible and relatable to people within the LGBT community. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Mans, would you like to? Or should I?
Why don't you take it?
All right. So, you don't see on TV. So I think, the major problem with a lot of fear-based, not real fear-based things is that people unfortunately see TV, or uneducated or maybe uninformed people see things on TV and then they perceive it to be something. So, for example, like, you'll see a gay woman on TV, she won't even be the lead, and she'll be like this butch person somewhere in a corner being rude. And it's the same for, like, say, an Asian person. They're seen as the super smart person. Or a great example in America is, half of middle of America haven't met Muslim people. So they think they're terrorists, while the rest of us are going, no, they're just normal people. So one of our characters, it was very important for us to kind of flip all those prejudices. So one of those prejudices, one of our characters, Jen Keith, she plays a gay woman in the show. She happens to be a gay woman also in real life. And she finds can I say it? She kind of meets someone.
She has a love interest.
She has a love interest.
That way, yeah.
And that love interest kind of that whole storyline is a part of what kind of drives the story in general, without trying to give too much away.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think one thing, and this will just relate to my style, I'm someone who, I write for the people that I know, the actors who are friends of mine, who I think are genuinely so talented, and I want to give them kind of a forum. And, for example, with Jen Keith, it was never like, I'm going to write a gay storyline because it's trendy. It was just, I want to write a storyline that can be true and real to who Jen is as a person and as a character actress, and she just does it so beautifully in the show. And, the other thing, too, that's interesting is that, thinking of, like, the Hammer films, and also I think a lot of, vampire films in general, there's this trope and this idea of, the sexy lesbian vampires, and it's very one note. It's just that sex object, and, that's fine, and great, but, for us, it wasn't, it kind of plays off of that, but in a different way. It's not meant to be, like, this is hot and sexy. It's meant to just be like, this is a relationship. It doesn't matter if it's two women or two guys.
Like, this is just normal people in normal life, just doing normal day things. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal in the sense that we just want to show it. That's why it's there.
So basically, it is what it is.
Yeah.
As I say. I mean, that point you made about sexy lesbian vampire scenes in, that's something that dates back to the Hammer films, I think, as well. And, I think a lot of that was really, to serve to titillate the male audience, more so than the female audience. I'd say a good thing, a good show that has done it well, and this is in fantasy, in terms of science fiction fantasy. I mean, we had in terms of LGBT and stuff like that, we had Xena Warrior Princess, where you had the relationship between Xena and Gabrielle. There was almost sort of like a chemistry there that they could actually be more than friends, sort of thing. Which was always seething under the surface, sort of thing. Yeah. And another interesting one was a Canadian series. It was on Sci-Fi Channel. A show called Lost Girl. It's about Succubus, and she happened to be a bi lead character.
Yeah, totally. I remember that show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know that show? What's it called?
Lost Girl.
Oscar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually handled it pretty well. It did play up the sexual thing and titillated a little bit, but it also played off the actual relationship stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there has to be a balance, you know, and don't get me wrong, like, the women in our show are very sexy. Like, you know, there's nothing about, like, they're not walking around in, like, schoolgirl, well, I guess schoolgirl uniforms would be sexy, but, you know, like, I guess, like, the really long skirts down to their, you know, feet where you can't see anything. Like, they're, you know, like, they're very sexy, but without having to kind of emphasize that on purpose. You know, I think you have to kind of have both. I mean, you know, we have male viewers and fans, and, you know, we want them to, I mean, Teegan's in a costume that's very interesting towards the end.
Well, it was pretty much see-through, and but we only kind of
halfway through. And then she's like, I thought you wanted it like that. I was like, I didn't even know. Just on it off after Fright Night. And I think one of our actresses, our main kind of female vampire, Yana Neelathan, her character is very, very attractive. She's the face of Yoda. And yeah, so we allow, I think, the realism, but also with, you know, what people and fans of the genre do want to see. So it kind of works that, I think, in a way that people will take to.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what I think would be interesting and would like to see more in entertainment? And you know, there's probably someone I was talking to earlier this afternoon that I completely disagree with me because he's a complete right winger versus me being more to the centre sort of thing. You know, I think it'd be quite interesting to see more transgendered characters popping up in TV shows.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think across all genres of TV, you know, because it's like almost a taboo here, but it's, you know, it's real, it's people's lives. There's, oh my gosh, you know, the political environment. I won't get into politics, but the political, I will not. Yeah. But, you know, when certain people's rights are being attacked, I think it's very important as filmmakers to stand up for everybody because we are the tellers of truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so like we've had there's a show called Sense8 on Netflix at the moment. It's so like there's a new series of it coming out later in the year, and they have a trans character in that. And they also have a trans character in Orange is the New Black.
That's correct.
As well. So we've seen a couple of trans women on TV, but there's not really we're not seeing too much of trans men sort of thing.
That's true. Was it not Arrested Development? It was the other one. Oh God, I've forgotten the name now. That's so embarrassing.
Is it Transparent? Is that what you're thinking?
Transparent. That's right. Yeah. She has an affair with a transgendered man. Yeah, that's correct.
Well, I think it relates to people being able to tell their truth. And, you know, one thing that we obviously stand for, because this is what we are, is, you know, as women filmmakers, you know, we're very big on feminism in film. And I think it's just getting the opportunities. I mean, that's what women are fighting for. And I think it's the same with, you know, the LGBT. It's just allowing these talented people, who cares who you love or what body you feel you belong in. You know, if someone is talented and honest and true, allow their art to shine, you know. And I think that's the problem in Hollywood and in pop culture, and I think just in culture in general, and it just needs to change.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, how do you guys, as feminists, how do you guys feel about the whole? I think this is actually blown up out of proportion, really. But a couple of weeks ago, Emma Watson was posing in sort of like a little sheath that kind of like exposed quite a bit of her boobage, sort of thing.
Yes.
I saw that. She's Amanda, did you see that?
I did. I'm going to let you take this one first.
I was not offended by it. So this is my take on it. I think the female form is gorgeous. I think both men and women alike would agree on that. I think the problem with nudity in general is that men take it upon themselves to do what they want and touch what they want and comment what they want because boys will be boys. Yeah. You know, can you imagine my air quotes right now? So if I felt the need to go do a completely nude shoot, that would be my prerogative. But there would also be the reality of the world in which we live in a patriarchal world. Men still get off, you know, raping women when they're blacked out and catcalling in the street. I mean, I can't remember what catcalling is like in London, but in New York, it is insane. It is insane how men call out to us. So if we want to, so just to round up, if we want to wear whatever we want to wear, I think we should be allowed to wear whatever we want to wear. We should be allowed to show our breasts. We should be allowed to show whatever we want. But unfortunately, the climate as it is one of abuse, I would say.
I think everyone should be allowed to go out walking about their business completely butt naked, but, you know, it'd be very impractical with the cold weather here and stuff like that. You know? Just,
well, and it's also, I mean, I guess, people obviously in all countries, you know, have their things, but I feel like it's a very American thing that, you know, Americans freak out over nudity. Like, it's just like such a horrific thing. I mean, I'm a huge fan of, you know, British television, and when I was in England a couple of years ago, I didn't want to leave the hotel because I just kept watching the television shows because they, and not for nudity, but like, because they were just so real and raw, and the language they used, and it wasn't a big deal, whereas in America, like, there are certain words you can't say on certain channels, and God forbid someone's nude, like, it's just this horrible taboo thing, and so I don't know, I mean, I don't know.
You know, there's this new huge thing around men, not all men, and Ian, I'm sorry to push you into it, but there's this thing about men, like, if a girl is dressed scantily, she deserves to be attacked. Now that is just the bit. In fact, you know what, my sister at her school, I've got a younger sister, and the school asked the girls not to wear shorts because it distracted the boys. Well, I lost my mind. And so did she, actually. She's 14 years old. She stood up for herself. I thought it was amazing. All the girls did. And I just think there needs to be...
That's a movie right there.
Right? I mean, there just has to be more of that, you know.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be... I'm not saying don't respect your body. I'm just saying don't do it because it might affect a man. That's what I'm saying.
From my point of view, if a girl is dressed, you use the term scantily.
Scantily clad.
I think that's kind of like that term in itself kind of like belittles it. But you know, the funny thing is you don't see many blokes going out dressed scantily. So, probably because quite a lot of us wouldn't have the confidence to do that. But I think if someone's, you know, out dressed scantily, you know, it should be respected. I don't really see it as them asking to be attacked. I see it as just sort of like
well, thank you.
expressing. I see it as them just expressing themselves. You know, it's that's what clothes are for. It's, you know, that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, straight. It's all about expression. And you know, we're in the film industry. We work very hard on our bodies and our skins and all of that. We want to wear bikini. I mean, I'm originally from South Africa. We naked half the time. We're in bikinis most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm from Queens, so that's not the same thing. But
that's not your reality.
Yeah. You can't, especially right now, you can't walk out in a bikini or anything. It's very, very cold.
No, it's about -4 here right now.
I mean, Teegan, you might do it anyway. I don't know.
No, too cold, babes.
Another interesting one about nudity in skin is tattoos and piercings and stuff like that. Now, I had an interesting conversation with my brother-in-law. He was going. He saw, like, he's got this view that you know, women that have tattoos, it kind of takes away from their femininity, and I thought, no, it doesn't.
No, not at all.
I don't think it does.
That's quite a narrow view.
Yeah, you know, it's quite a surprising view for me as well, because my brother-in-law is actually, you know, very, very liberal. He's very sort of like, he's you know, he's to the left politically, but you know, that kind of view came up because I get tattoos, and the artist that works for me, she's really good, and she's got quite a few tattoos, but she still looks feminine. You know.
You have a tattoo, right, Amanda? You have one.
I do, yeah. Well, and I think that idea just kind of goes into the same thing we were talking about with anything, you know, LGBT. It's somebody who's maybe a little different than what someone maybe normally surrounds themselves with for them to have that view. Like, I don't know, I don't see how that would take away from, you know, someone being viewed as feminist. I just think that's kind of, or feminist.
Yes, that's why I personally haven't thought of that before. I've
heard it before, but
have you? Wait, well, what rock am I living under?
Yeah. I think what they mean is women that get like the sleeves where it's like very visible, like everywhere.
I like that.
Only like one. I mean, I have one tattoo and it's not visible. That didn't sound right, but
well, yeah, it's not in plain sight.
It's not in a bad place. It's just as a performer, it's just not highly visible.
I actually like that. I mean, I had a girlfriend one time, and she had she had a sleeve, and it was a very feminine sleeve actually. It was full of things like My Little Pony and Care Bears and stuff like that.
Yes,
So.
That's adorable.
I freaking loved My Little Pony.
Oh, Care Bears are where it's at.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. What about Care Bears? Don't know if I would get a tattoo to my body. I don't have a tattoo because my mother would die. So and also I'm actually too indecisive. I don't think I'd ever know what to wear.
You would not.
I would never. It would be like a constant stream of me getting a tattoo, getting it laced.
That's not right. That needle point. Like I'm not too sure about it.
Oh,
is that my accent?
That was actually not my best one. I think you got a little like.
You've done better ones than that.
Oh, my mother, when I got my first tattoo, it was funny because she objected to me getting a tattoo, but went out and got one anyway. and I was in America at the time, and I'd come back to the hotel with this small dingy tattoo. I've had it covered now with Rocketeer and Betty. And she rang everyone up saying, Ian's gone and got himself a tattoo. He's sort of like, she was ringing absolutely everyone, having the same conversation. Ian's got a tattoo. I thought, oh my God! Well, sort of like,
So what did your family have to say then?
Oh, they just had to shut up in the end. They got used to it.
Okay, alright, never mind.
So
it's there now. So
I've got more blatant as I've gotten older as well. I've actually got a half sleeve of wolves on one arm.
Oh shit!
And it's almost a half sleeve. It's just got to go out. It's just got to go the rest of the way round.
Yeah, beautiful.
Good for you. Better you than.
Yeah, well, they are painful. So back onto the back onto Yodo. What other shows would you say have informed it other than Buffy? Is there anything specific genre of horror director, writer that you'd say has been particularly inspiring?
Absolutely. I think visually, obviously on a smaller budget, but we definitely love the look of like a show like True Blood. I mean, I think Teegan, you'd agree visually that's definitely stylistically what we try to do, even in a kind of smaller scale. But I think, creatively, I mean, Sam Raimi, obviously, the stuff he was doing with, Evil Dead, just so incredible to watch. And so again, on a smaller scale, I mean, I would work with my DP, she's incredible, Samantha Pyra, shout out, and we would like try to get those like Sam Raimi Evil Dead shots, and she would just be like, she'd have the camera handheld and she'd like run up to something to get a close up, and like she was such a perfectionist at like getting it right, and we're like, this is your Sam Raimi moment, and then when we would get it done, it'd be like, yes. So I mean, that's definitely, Teegan's laughing because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I think, someone outside of the horror genre in terms of, I think, the humor, I think, Teegan, you mentioned it, Tina Fey's comedy, specifically, I think a show like Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, it definitely has that vibe, because, we go very dark at times, but then we have these lighter, kind of surreal, quirky moments that I think fit into it quite nicely. But yeah, I mean, there's so many.
Mm.
Yeah, and visually, it's quite interesting, because as I said, I don't come from the horror genre, but I have a very big opinion about what looks good and what doesn't. And so some of the stills that I really loved, there's a show here called Master of None. Mm-hmm. It's Aziz Ansari. And it's funny, I guess, how it kind of is overlap, but maybe it's society's obsession with the 80s. I don't know, because as filmmakers, we make those images with gels and lenses, basically. Mm-hmm. And even though I wasn't a huge horror fan, the images were still the same as, do you know what I'm saying, Amanda? They were still the same as the ones that I loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would send her this gorgeous image from this still from Master of None, and Amanda would send me back like, oh, this is on my storyboard already.
Yeah.
So and like from a horror genre. So I think all our influences are quite an amalgamation of.
Well, and I know the ones that
everything.
Teegan would send me obviously more kind of pleasant images that were
Right.
still. I would send you kind of the horror ones. Another one visually for me, and this is unfortunate for Teegan having to get these images, were definitely Dario Argento stills.
Yeah.
So just like these grotesque, horrible scenes of like gruesome murders, but beautifully done. I mean, the color is same thing with the Hammer films. Like the color is just out of this world. That it is an art form in itself for sure.
Mm. Yeah, the thing I love about the Hammer films, is whenever somebody was bitten by a vampire or bleeding to death, the blood would just sort of like ooze out of them slowly.
Oh yeah.
Whereas that actually wouldn't actually happen in reality if they were bitten, you strike an actual vein.
I mean, somebody critiqued recently on, I think, the film. They were like, which I thought was a little interesting. They were like, the death scenes are what did they say? Something like over the top, and I'm like, over the top? It's a horror movie. I don't even think it was, for me, I didn't even think it was, I think we could have gone further. Like, that's always my thing. I'm always like, more blood. I mean, I think Eli Roth says that all the time. It's like, more blood. Like, that's how I live my life.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never really been scared of horror films. I just find them funny.
Yeah.
Horror and comedy are brother and sister.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do not like them. I think the world is a scary place.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm dying to see Get Out now. Jordan Peele's new film.
Cool.
Have you heard of it, Ian?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've not really seen any trailers for it or anything like that, and that's quite deliberate. Because I tried to.
It's amazing. It's one of your actors from Black Mirror is in it.
Cool.
English actor from Black Mirror is in it. His name's Daniel. Don't know what his last name is. But fantastic actor.
I mean, that's a
Daniel
film.
Kaluuya.
Yeah, he's great. Well, I mean, I did see that film, and it kind of, it speaks to the political climate in such a way that's brilliant, and it's a film it's scary and it's funny, and it's just also, I think Jordan Peele, the director, is so fantastic, and I said this to you, Teegan, after I saw it, that, the thing that struck me, which is what I think, I try to do with You Only Die Once, is that he clearly is such a devoted fan of the horror genre, because that film, I mean, like, the casual viewer won't get it. I'm a bit of a nerd, I guess. No, I'm not nerd. I like to say,
You're a horror nerd. You're totally a horror nerd.
I actually studied it in college, so I think I can say.
I think that sufficiently allows you to be called a horror nerd.
When you read enough horror essay books as I have, I think I get that title. But, it speaks to a lot of the films of the 1970s. When I got out of Get Out, my impression was that it kind of was like taking The Wicker Man and the Stepford Wives and kind of letting them have a baby and then putting in a little bit of comedy and social commentary, and that's Get Out. And I think, and he did that with the music and the images and just the story. And, with You Only Die Once, my thing was kind of taking films from like the 1980s and, Hammer films of the 70s and all that stuff, and just kind of blending it in a way that is still very current to, feminism and what we're all about as, as the filmmaker.
So it's safe to say that you guys are not fans of the Twilight films?
No. No.
Thank God for that.
I laughed I think I saw 2 and was very angry at the person who made me saw the second, because I felt like I'd been like really gypped.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like.
Well, I think it's everything that's wrong with feminism and, also just teenagers. Like, that's not. I mean, again, I grew up with Buffy. Like, I'm sorry, the whole vampire human thing. Like, that's doing it right. Even though I'm to this day I can't stand Angel, but I will always be a Spike Buffy fan. But anyway, that's me going on a tangent. But I will say with Twilight, I only saw maybe half of the first film, and I think visually, Catherine Hardwicke is a phenomenal director. I love her, and I think visually it's a very it's a well done film. So I think, Teegan, if you and I sat down and watched it shot for shot, I think
we would get quite excited.
We have a lot of nice things to say about it, but I approach things very much from a story perspective. So for me, it's just like I can't.
Amanda and I will be watching something. We watch a lot of like web series and content to see kind of where our content it is, and she'll just be like, I don't understand why someone wrote the story. She's like, there's no plot line, there's no Amanda is very technical, and that's what makes Yodo actually so incredible, because there is something happening in every single scene. There is something exciting happening, something and not cliched either, and the jokes are on point because the characters are actually just speaking as themselves. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm in love with Yodo, so.
Yeah, I thought you said he was in love with Yoda then, for a second.
Listen, I will go on the record, and I've said this to everyone I know. I hate that so many people call it Yodo. Even I call it Yodo because I'm not a Star Wars fan. Like, I have nothing against Star Wars. I've actually never even really seen much of it. But it just sounds like Yoda. And so every time I say Yodo, I think of Yoda. And I'm like, God damn it, that's not what it is. It's Yodo. But, like, it just, you can't help but, like, associate the two.
And I love that it's called Yodo, because everyone always has, like a, YOLO.
And then like I didn't know what YOLO was either for a long time, and like I had heard it, and then it was a line written for the character of Rufus, and that's how the title of the film came about. And somebody said to me like, "Oh, YOLO, like Drake." I'm like, "What is that? Who's like he started?" I never even knew Drake started.
Is that how Drake started it?
Apparently,
did you know that, Ian?
See, this is what I'm told. I don't even know.
I didn't, because I don't really listen to Drake. I'm sort of like I'm kind of like 1980s and 90s rock.
Listen, that's me, so I'm with you.
That's Amanda. I do listen to Drake, but I also love a good I love 70s rock. That's my.
Well,
David Bowie,
good old Steely. Well, David Bowie's in everything, isn't he? He's just incredible.
Well, I'm kind of like I'd say I'm 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s rock, you know, and Foo Fighters.
Basically, when music was good, basically.
You know, basically when it wasn't all this manufactured crap we're getting now.
Yeah.
We are getting some strange music today, but I actually quite love rap now. I'm obsessed with hip hop and rap. Yeah. I was not when I lived in Cape Town or London, because, as you know, in London it's like garage music, then pop, the top European 40, and then in South Africa they're obsessed with house music. Mm. And I thought, oh God, hip hop is this very like misogynistic art form. It is not. I'm obsessed now. Chance the Rapper and Frank Ocean are like my baes.
It depends on the artist. You know what?
Yes,
you know,
I would say.
Like I mean, you know, I've got a friend called Raman, and he produces his own grind beats sort of thing. And I've been doing a bit of collaborating with him, you know, with the guitar and whatnot. So no.
That's amazing. Then you have Dizzy Rascal, don't you? Dizzy Rascal. You don't know who that is, hey Matt? Dizzy Rascal.
I do.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that.
Teegan just wants an excuse to start singing. I think that's.
I face that.
Yeah. We also have Simon Cowell, unfortunately, but.
Yeah.
You know,
that's funny.
I think he's a vampire.
Yeah.
You know, he polishes those teeth every day.
I would stand by that.
I would also second that. I would say he's not listening, right?
Probably not.
Whoops. Anyhow.
He's probably too busy adjusting the auto-tuning for his next great find.
Yeah. Likely, yeah.
That's funny.
That's great.
When's the series going to be released?
Well, so our plan as of now is to premiere the show on YouTube this spring. We don't have our official release date just yet, but we're thinking probably the end of May, early June. So if you guys follow us on our YouTube channel, as well as on our website at www.yodoseries.com, .weebly.com. We're kind of all over the place. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Yodo Series, and you guys can stay updated on that.
Cool.
Right.
What was it that made you decide to take this to the web and not try to sort of like sell it as to the mainstream?
Well, I can speak in that vein.
Yes.
I actually do. I want to sell the second season, absolutely, without a doubt. But I've done quite a bit of research, and the film industry's changed a lot right now. Yes, HBO have people studios have people writing for them, absolutely, but people are looking for content. So, especially in New York, so you are far more likely to get something picked up if you have something already kind of fleshed out. You know what your brand is, and you know what your show looks like, and then you start hitting up people. So we want it to be accessible first, on a streaming, sorry, not on a streaming, on a like a YouTube kind of flat platform or like that kind of vibe, and then we'll sell it.
Yeah. I also think like Yoda would have been weird to pitch without anything to show. I think people would have been like, what? Like Kimmy Schmidt meets like Broad City with vampires. That's okay, but I think
absolutely, and you really have to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
you really have to know what you're doing in order to pitch a show like that. I mean, no. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there aren't that many young artists walking into networks and being like, so I've got this amazing idea of a show. You need to buy it. Even, for example, with something like Broad City, or even Kimmy Schmidt. But, I mean, Kimmy Schmidt, she already had executives behind her because of The Office. Yeah. But with Broad City, I mean, those girls, they made a first season, they made a second season, and the second season they started paying people, making their product better. We already, this product that we have now is quite fantastic, if I might say myself. And please God, an easy sell.
Yeah,
please God.
Yeah, let's just speak to all our guardian angels.
Yeah, and hopefully Netflix.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the next Netflix. I think media is constantly changing, so who knows what that next big platform might be? Maybe who knows? Who knows where Yoda is meant to be?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yoda will tell us.
Well,
yeah.
Hopefully it goes on to be a huge success for you guys.
Absolutely, from your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's all I've really got for you. Is there anything else you'd like to promote? Do you have any other projects going on, or anything that you'd like to make people aware of that you've put out that hasn't really been viewed much?
I think we kind of on the Yodo train at the moment. I've got a feature that I produced back in June, but that's still very much in editing mode. Yodo, I mean, for me, Yodo is the most kind of fully fledged thing at the, it's a baby that needs a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda? It's it's really a full-time job.
It's a full-time job. And, when you live in a world where, somebody said to me, I think recently, like, don't, you're stressed, don't go and kill anybody. And I'm like, well, trust me, I've been killing people in the editing room for months now. So that's how I deal with my stress. It's just, this person is pissing me off. Well, I'm killing them, in the show. So there's that.
Yes, Amanda, you're giving away secrets here, no?
Yeah.
Well, it's a show called You Only Die Once. So I think people understand that people will probably die.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna guess that.
Yeah, but only once.
Only once, yes.
Only once.
True. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an irony because you then die and then you come back as a vampire.
So it's
Yeah, we'd just like to promote our YouTube channel. I mean, if everyone could go, it's You Only Die Once, the series. You can go check out all our fun little clips because we've got a lot of videos that we put up constantly, separate from the trailer, from the movie, and from the 6 episodes that will be released. But you basically can learn all the characters. We'll be doing character breakdowns now where people will get to meet all the different characters. So look out for that.
Cool.
And subscribe to our channel.
Will do. The best of luck with You Only Die Once. And of course, Yodo.
Yes.
Hey everybody, this is Daniel Corey, writer of Image Comics Moriarty and Red City and Danger Cats Bloodworth, and you are listening to SFP-NOW.
Okay, I'd like to thank Amanda B. Goodman and Teegan for their time and energy talking about the show. You can actually go see Yodo on YouTube when it's actually released. We'll put the necessary links on sci-fi-post.net. Anyway, right now, joining me for the TV segment of the show, as always, is Raissa.
Hello.
Well, hi, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
I'm good. We got quite a few shows to get through this week. I think you brought up 3 in the pre-show chat that you want to discuss. So should we do yours first, and then we'll do mine last?
Yes, let's do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what should we start with? Should we start with humans?
Yeah, let's start with humans. Keep in mind the 2-hour finale hasn't aired for me yet, but since we probably won't be doing this for a couple more weeks, I wanted to discuss it now. Season 2 has been much stronger than the initial season. They learned a lot of lessons, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. They did indeed. I mean, I season 2, when it was on, it went by much faster.
Yes.
But I think that was also to do with the fact that it was actually on in winter, whereas season 1 aired in the spring. So, maybe time just goes faster in the winter. I don't know, but they did seem to be the episodes seemed to be more pacier.
Yes.
They got out of the kitchen sink drama thing a little bit, and the new characters that they added, such as Hester, the psychotic robot.
Yes, bless her heart. She is not well. No.
Yeah, she is twisted, as you'll find out in the finale. I'll not say too much more than that.
Okay.
But they did learn a lot of lessons, and the way it ends with intent to continue on for another year. I'll say that much to you. So
I figured it would, because it seemed to me that if AMC was putting their share of the money in to as a co-production, they would want it to run for a bit. I love the fact they brought Odie in from season 1. He's been very refreshing, because all of the other characters are so glum for obvious reasons. I mean, they've got reasons to be glum, but Odie is like just a breath of fresh air, just for contrast, if nothing else. He's been absolutely wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't had as much of Leo's character as I was expecting. They've kind of downplayed him this year.
Yeah, they did. They've also they haven't had quite as much of the family either.
Which I'm thankful for, because I did not like the kitchen sink drama. I don't watch my sci-fi shows for kitchen sink drama, so I really resent it when sci-fi shows and fantasy shows, for that matter, try to include the kitchen sink drama, because that's what kitchen sink drama's for, and I don't watch those shows normally, and that's for another audience. Leave me alone. So I really don't appreciate that stuff. So the fact that they've downplayed that has been very, very helpful.
Yeah, but what I wasn't grateful for them downplaying was they still used the mother from that kitchen sink drama in order to fight what's the name now, the blonde one?
Niska.
In order to fight Miska's corner. See, this is it. I forget the names because I've not seen the show in about 4 months. It finished airing here in December last year.
I'm loving Niska. She's awesome.
She is. She's very complex, and initially you see Niska, who's relatively sane and has reasons to be a badass and really angry, and then you see Hester. It's like a complete contrast.
Yeah, no, Hester. The only thing I can figure is that Hester's wiring was bad from the get-go, and then just becoming sentient didn't help. Mm-hmm. That's the only way Hester makes sense, because she's had no arc. She just started out that way. Whereas you're right, Niska makes more sense. They arced her in such a way that you look at her and go, yeah, that's why that happened.
Well, the only thing we have to go on about Hester is she was in an industrial sort of setting, as in she was basically an industrial worker bot. So
yeah, and they were violent toward them. They did establish that. So, but even so, it doesn't quite explain the degree to which Hester just comes out blazing the way she does. Mm-hmm. It doesn't track, quite as organically as a character like Niska.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What did you think of the Carrie-Anne Moss character?
I'm loving her, and she was necessary, because she is very much the replacement for William Hurt's character last year because they needed a more cerebral character coming at this from yes, an emotional standpoint, but also a more cerebral standpoint. They needed somebody to get esoteric with it. And the fact that she's actually trying to retrieve her now dead daughter's consciousness through her AI is just, it's really thematically very interesting. And I'm hoping we get some carry through in subsequent seasons with her.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's pretty tragic.
It is. The one through line is that none of these characters are having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
It just all sucks. And Humans is one of those shows that you have to brace yourself for because first off, it's based on like a Swedish show. And so that in itself says a lot because the Swedish, Danish, those shows tend to be a little bleaker than average in general. So,
you've never watched EastEnders, love.
Oh, God.
EastEnders is bleak.
True. I'm glad I don't watch it.
Well, I don't watch it. I'm just mentioning that it's bloody bleak.
Bleak.
We have a depressing episode every Christmas where someone either dies, gets arrested, raped, or run over by a combine harvester. It's just not a good show at all.
Oh, God. Yeah, so Humans is one of those shows I enjoy, but I've got to get into a certain mindset. It's one of the reasons why I haven't watched Westworld yet, because I don't have enough energy for two shows about artificial intelligence not having a good time at the same time. So I want to get through Humans and then I'll tackle Westworld.
Yeah, Westworld's good.
I'm looking forward to it. This weekend or next week sometime I will start checking that one out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So So no, I'm looking forward to the finale. Season 2 is a vast improvement over season 1. I had to think hard before I even watched season 2 because I was that underwhelmed by season 1, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
At just a basic structural level.
Yeah, you see my reviews of season 1, then you see my reviews of season 2, and the reviews of season 2 were definitely better.
Yes.
Yes. Because season 1, I was just unhappy with the overall pacing of the thing. It went really fast for the first 2 episodes, and then it sagged in the middle.
Yes.
To a point that when the series actually did finally end at the end of season 1, I'd actually more or less taught myself out of going back to it for season 2.
Yeah, no, and it was the fact that they were going to bring back Odie that convinced me that this was worth checking out again. So I'm glad they did that.
Well, what convinced me to come back was an interview that the actress gave that plays Niska, when she said it's going to take on a more international sort of like flavour. The story's going to spread out more and become bigger. That's what got me coming back. Whereas sort of like it was too kitchen sink drama, which made it too small. It just sort of like it was all about the family and Mia and whatnot.
Yeah.
To a point where everything that was good about the first season, Leo and his mate and the conspiracy to capture them and all that was sort of like wasn't given as much importance as the kitchen sink drama.
No, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think another show you want to talk about is the Lemony Snicket's, which came out in January on Netflix.
Yeah, and I finally got around to it. Just only so many hours in the day, but I really loved it. I wasn't familiar with, I had heard about the books, but I hadn't read them, and I wasn't familiar with the Jim Carrey version. I hadn't watched that either, so I went into it cold and absolutely loved it. I felt like it was a show I'd been waiting for.
Well, I wasn't familiar with the Jim. I was familiar with the Jim Carrey version, but I didn't watch it because it was Jim Carrey. Because I don't really think Jim Carrey is that good of an actor, to be honest. He's a bit one note. No,
and this works because of Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, but I think the kids were good actors as well.
They're very good actors. They've got a problem though because they've got a bunch of books to get through, and they've got to do it all before the kids start aging. So they're gonna have an interesting production schedule if they want to get this done.
Well, there is such thing as CG.
True.
And they use quite a lot of it in Lemony Snicket's.
Yeah, I will say that I thought the inclusion of the baby is some of the most creative inclusion of a baby I've ever seen.
A baby goes through everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it overall when in January, and as you know, I was still reeling with depression at losing my cat back in January and all of that. So that show kind of managed to sort of keep me up.
Yes, and it's interesting that it was able to do that because that show is very much about loss. And it's one of the prevalent themes, and yet the way they deal with it is very cathartic, and it's really well done. And like I said, Neil Patrick Harris, who has an executive producer credit, which I think is pretty requisite these days, but he deserves the executive producer credit because he does so much, and that entire cast is awesome, and the guest stars are insanely good.
Yeah, I couldn't believe they got Alfred Woodard.
Yes, they got some names for that.
They got some pretty major names for it, you know. I quite enjoyed the second story with the reptile keeper.
Oh yes, he was lovely. I was so sorry he was going to die, but the foreshadowing, it was just there, and the fact that they even introduced the concept of dramatic irony for the younger viewers. It's like it's not going to end well, children.
Yeah, and the guy that was doing the narrating, the guy
Patrick Warburton.
Patrick Warburton, awesome. He was brilliant playing Lemony Snicket.
He's incredible. Fantastic. He's incredible. Genre fans will remember him as the Tick. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the Tick. Yeah, yep. And Patrick Warburton is he's awesome. I guarantee you though that at some point there's going to be some fourth wall breaking where he actually interacts with the kids in narrative. It's going to have to happen.
Well, it's gonna have to happen anyway because the series is called Lemony Snicket's,
yes.
A series of unfortunate events, and at the moment he's narrating in it's all in the past tense. You've got to be asking yourself who told him about all these stories.
Yeah, he alludes to the fact that the children in later years said this or that or the other thing, so they must have met later on, but it's I knew, and the thing is, the show managed to surprise me which such few shows actually do anymore. I knew that mother and father were going to die at the end just because that was thematically how the show was set up. But I hadn't counted on the second set of kids, and the fact that the season finale was going to end with a second set of kids with a different half of the code thingy. So yeah, and that actually was a surprise.
Yeah, it was clever. I mean that first series was based on the first 4 books, I think.
The first 4 books, and I like how it's structured. Like every 2 episodes is a book, and because they're apparently not very long books, but there are a lot of them. Because they're written for younger audiences, and so every two episodes is a book, and so we've gotten through the first 4 books.
Yeah. Brilliant series. I really enjoyed it. There's actually a series I want to talk about now, before we bring your last series in. As you know, Iron Fist premiered this weekend. I know that you wasn't into it, that you gave up after the first sort of
15 minutes. That's all I could say. Yeah. I just it's purely subjective. The Netflix Marvel shows just they're not doing it for me. No. That's why I switched to Lemony Snicket.
Yeah, I think the reason they're not doing it for you, Raissa, is that there are street level shows.
I don't like street level narrative. Arrow is actually my least favorite of the DC shows of the DC network shows for that reason.
Yeah, but the more street level than Arrow.
Even more than that. Okay.
Because
true.
Because with Arrow, you pretty much know what the narrative's going to be. With a Netflix show, it's basically when they're bringing a new character on a Netflix show, it's 13 episodes explaining that character's origin story. But I actually liked Iron Fist. Admittedly, the first 6 episodes were kind of slow. They were slow build-up. They were sort of they used probably the first 4, maybe 5 episodes to sort of explain who's Danny Rand and stuff like that, which kind of slowed the pacing down a little bit too much. But once it found its flow, around about sort of episode 4, 5, and 6, once it started to find its flow, it got really good, and sort of the interesting thing is they kind of changed the origin story somewhat. Because in the comic book, Danny Rand goes on an expedition to Kunlun with his father and his mother, and of course Harold Meacham, his father's business partner. Now, in the comic, Meacham breaks his father's breaks Danny Rand's father's hand, and sort of tosses him off a cliff, and he sort of like abandons Danny and his mother. And what happens is a bridge kind of opens up out of nowhere. Once Meacham's gone out of the picture, sort of thing, and they get attacked by wolves, and his mother gets savaged by wolves in front of him, and some monks pick up Danny Rand and train him to become a mystical sort of like kung fu warrior. They basically train him to become the Iron Fist. And in the myth, the Iron Fist protects the secret island of Kunlun from the Hand, which is
I would love just more of that, because the mystical storylines are more my cup of tea.
Yeah, well, it might be worth you going back to it again and just suffering through the first 6 episodes till you get to it. But basically, there's that, and but in the comic book, the reason Danny Rand's father's taken him on this expedition is to meet his sensei in the island of Kunlun, because he knows where the island is, and the island apparently in the comics only becomes accessible once every 10 years. In the series, they changed that to once every 15 years to justify the fact that he went missing for 15 years. But it's sort of like it's that, and the fight sequences were good in the comic, in the series. The actual use of the Iron Fist, how he has to sort of like channel his chakra in order to sort of like make use of the Iron Fist was quite cleverly explained and done. And the fact that he's sort of like he's teams up with Colleen Wing, who's actually a fully trained Bushido samurai.
Cool.
Is good. They even changed her storyline for the series as well, because in the comics she's already aware of the Iron Fist and who Danny Rand is, because she's actually sent to meet him in the comic book, whereas in this she doesn't know who he is and he doesn't know who she is. So they kind of meet, and that's kind of like the love story sort of like element to it that they throw into it there. But it's going to be interesting to see how they incorporate this into the Defenders, because I put odds even money on the fact that when they come together as the Defenders, they're going to be fighting the Hand.
Yeah.
And the Hand are kind of like a group of mystical ninjas that can resurrect people from the dead and do all sorts of weird shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I did watch the first season of Daredevil, so I know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, they featured a little bit in the second season as well, especially towards the end where it concerns Elektra.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed it. I was actually pleasantly surprised, because I've never really heard of Iron Fist or read any of the Iron Fist comics. The only comics that I've actually read that they've actually done on Netflix shows is Daredevil. So I enjoyed it, but I still think the best of the Netflix shows so far has to be Jessica Jones. That's street level, but you've got a mystical villain in the form of David Tennant, who was absolutely flipping brilliant in that show.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I skipped it. I don't like street level stuff too much, and I wasn't in the mood to be depressed. So
okay.
Yeah, it's a little too dark.
Well, it's not as dark as the Game of Bloody Thrones.
Well, that's the reason I wasn't in the mood to be depressed. I was already watching Game of Thrones. I didn't need 2 shows, where people are just that screwed up.
It's actually like comic relief in comparison to Game of Thrones. Yeah. And humans for that matter.
Yeah. I do depressing in very, very small doses because I can't take it.
I guess I must have a stronger depression threshold.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but basically what I usually do is that if I'm watching something that's, you could construe as a little bit depressing, I usually watch a cartoon or a Disney movie after it. Either that or get drunk.
Yeah.
So your next show is...
let's do Time After Time, since you're the one doing yours.
Well, okay. Well, Time After Time, as you know, it's in the 4th episode aired last night.
Yes. It's kind of interesting because you need a certain amount of narrative economy to make these kinds of storylines work, but I'm getting a little claustrophobic. There's almost a little too much narrative economy going on. It's like they all know and they're all related.
Yeah, that's what I find a little bit weird is, Brooke knows, Griffin knows, but, Vanessa doesn't know that Griffin knows, Vanessa doesn't know that Brooke knows.
Yeah.
That's sort of like, they need to clear that up pretty damn quickly.
It's going to drag, and considering that's going to be a very thin margin that they even get a season 2, they need to just move this along. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what I think it is? And this is quite obvious, really.
Yeah.
I think Griffin and Brooke are probably the descendants of John Stevenson.
Yes, the way that Vanessa is a descendant of H.G. Wells. Yeah, that makes sense. And Dr. Moreau's in there somewhere.
Well, the surname of Brooke is actually Monroe.
Oh, Monroe. Okay.
Yeah, so
and then it gets changed to Moreau. Yeah, that makes sense.
That rhymes with Moreau. So, maybe it started off as Moreau and I changed it to Monroe.
Yeah.
Because of the fallout from what Dr. Moreau did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've quite enjoyed it so far. I'm finding the characters quite likeable. I think Freddie Stromer's doing a pretty good job of H.G. Wells. And,
yes,
and the I forget the name of the actor who's playing Stevenson, but the guy that's playing Stevenson is doing it very, very well. Not quite David Warner standards.
Considering he's got to go, with the previous film and what was done in the previous film, he's doing extremely well. Mm-hmm. It's not a small thing to live up to David Warner or Malcolm McDowell for that matter. So,
but I
Josh Bowman. Yes.
Yeah, Josh Bowman. Yeah, I've been surprised because I thought this could go either one or two ways, given who's involved in it. Because it's the same guy that produced Vampire Diaries, and if you've ever seen Vampire Diaries, it's kind of like Beverly Hills 90210 with fangs. Yeah,
I've seen enough of it to know it's not my cup of tea.
Well,
yeah.
I seen one or two episodes of it, and it just saw like I just thought this is just Beverly Hills 90210 with fangs.
Yes, no, it's pretty bad, and that was one of my issues too. It's because I didn't watch Vampire Diaries. The only CW shows I watch are the DC ones, and I have issues with the DC ones because the DC ones are being infected by CW internal logic. Mm-hmm. Which is what we get with Vampire Diaries, and you see a teensy bit of that in some of the character dynamics, but not too much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I quite like I think the actress that's playing Jane is quite attractive.
Yeah, she's lovely, and all and it wouldn't shock me if Jane is actually the genetically the link that she ends up having a kid with H.G. Wells, and that's where some of this came from. Only she has the kid in the past or something.
Yeah, but if you remember in the original Time After Time, at the end of the movie, his girlfriend in that one's called Amy. He took her back to Victorian England with him.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
So we don't know whether he destroyed the time machine or not, and it's also been hinted in this very heavily that this has all happened before.
Yes.
So could it have all happened before with Amy, and they're somehow trying to link this in with the original movie somehow? I mean, I don't think they'll be that clever, to be honest. But
no, I think it's hard to tell, and it's frustrating because I really doubt they're going to get a second season. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, because this is a layered enough narrative that they're going to need multiple seasons to unspool this. But at the rate they're going ratings wise, it's probably not going to happen. So I don't know how invested to get into this narrative that requires a certain amount of investment. All I know is that up to now I've enjoyed what I've seen.
Yeah, I'm just going to follow it through for the simple fact that the only thing I'm watching right now, it seems to be watching and reviewing quite a lot of, is DC shows and stuff like that. And there's not very much science fiction on other than that. And maybe Supernatural, which I'd kind of gotten bored of years ago. It's been going for so long now. So I'm just coming at it from that standpoint. It's something else that I'm enjoying that I can review. And as you know, I'm actually doing two things with Time After Time, week in, week out. I'm recapping it for Monsters and Critics, and I'm reviewing it for Sci-Fi Pulse.
Yes, I've read your Monsters and Critics recaps. They're quite good.
Yeah, it's quite hard to encapsulate everything that happens in after one viewing, and that is after one viewing. I've only watched the show once to actually recap all that. So that's basically that basically gives you an idea of my mad memory skills.
Yeah.
I've quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoy the Vanessa Anders character, you know.
Yes.
And that 3-year-old little girl was adorable.
Oh, she was precious. By the way, just one of those 6 degrees of separation things. Jennifer Farron, who plays Brooke, played the wife, played the Cape's wife on The Cape.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up because I hadn't had a chance to. That proves that she has a lot more range than they allowed her on The Cape.
Yeah, I thought the scene between her and Stevenson in this last episode was absolutely brilliant. It was sort of like
it was wonderful.
It was like they were doing a little dance with each other. It was sort of like there was actually a rhythm to the to the acting, which is something you don't really see often anymore.
No, you've got to be a good actor to pull that kind of stuff off, and they're both really good actors.
You know. And I've actually commented about that in my review, which is going to go live tomorrow. So that the rhythm of that scene.
It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful.
Mm-hmm. But it's going to be interesting seeing if what happens when they track him to 1938 Paris in next week's ep.
1919. Actually, it's like 1919 or something like that. Yeah, it's even earlier. But yeah.
No, it's actually 1938 Paris.
Okay. That's not the date I remember, but okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of the actual date. But I think it was 1938 Paris. I'm pretty damn sure of that. But I'm not sure if it was the 30th of March 1938, if it was that specific or not.
No, it was. I think it was April, but I'm not sure. I wasn't paying that close attention.
But I knew the year was 1938 because I actually deliberately bookmarked that in my mind before actually writing the review. So it's kind of one of those little memory tricks. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I thought initially it was going to be 1933 Paris because of the poster of the Invisible Man that was seen in the overall trailer for the thing, but apparently not. Yeah. And I think that might be what you was thinking of.
Yeah, that might be it. But no, that's gonna be fun. The thing that's bothering me a little bit is I wish they would do a little more time travel. I wish not so much of it was present day, but that's just me.
Well, that's basically just them saving money, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I'm more used to the timeless approach where if they're going to spend money and do this, let's just do a time travel show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mind you, Timeless isn't coming back either. So.
Oh God, that's really if neither one of these shows comes back, it pretty much says that there's very little hope for a time travel show.
Yeah.
On American TV.
On American TV.
So it basically means we've only got Doctor Who.
Doctor Who and Legends for as long as they can maintain that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Legends, yeah, but I'm kind of discounting Legends because it's a DC
It's true.
show.
Legends is its own thing. Yeah.
And it's going to carry on running for as long as the CW can get away with it.
Yeah.
So you said you wanted to discuss one of the DC shows, so.
Yeah, I wanted to discuss my theory for Savitar since everybody else had to go on DC Action Hour and I didn't have a chance to get into the chat room for that.
Okay, well, can we just quickly plug DC Action Hour before we go into this?
Sure.
basically, I was on DC Action Hour, which is on YouTube. It's on the Super Geeks Up channel, and we had a really interesting guest on the show, but we also had a lot of fun playing a few games and recapping the various DC shows on the thing. And from what Jeff tells me, is they're planning to try and bring some more guests on the show. So if you want to check that out, you can find it. It airs every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think he usually streams it live to the website at Super Geeked Up. So, if you guys want to check that out, go for it. But yeah, now on to Savitar, because we had a good old ding-dong on the show last night about Savitar, and we had all sorts of theories. The negative Barry Allen, the HR theory, which I sort of came up with, and the Speed Force messing with Barry Allen.
Yeah, while your HR theory held water as far as it went, I'm with Jeff in that they're never going to go for it, simply because at the PR level they would lose credibility. They can't go to that well twice.
Yeah, I kind of said that in when I was talking about my HR theory.
Yeah, I know, and one of you did. I think, you and Jeff kind of chimed in with that. But yeah, the issue is that at the narrative level, any of these characters could be justified. But my theory is Eddie, to the extent that we don't actually know what happened to him after he became part of the Singularity. We saw the Singularity sucking his body in.
And of course, he was still miffed with Barry over Iris.
He was still miffed with Barry over Iris, and we don't know what the effects of being the nexus of a Singularity actually are, coupled with Flashpoint, coupled with Reverse Flashpoint, coupled with a lot of this stuff. And
coupled with the fact that we've not seen Eddie Thorne since the tail end of season 1 until this last episode. That too.
And the fact that they could bring Rick Costnet back into the Speed Force means that he is available. And they could have, and because Savitar is a primarily CGI character, they could have very easily had Rick Costnet film the unmasking scenes and the requisite exposition dump in and around the same time that he filmed Into the Speed Force without disrupting his schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what kind of goes against that is the producers said a while back that they didn't know who Savitar was, that they were kind of making up on the fly.
But they had that recent article where they said they knew what it was, and they've been planning this for a while. Mm-hmm. So they've either they're talking out of both sides of their mouths. They could be talking out of both sides of their mouths, because God knows the Arrow writers were talking out of both sides of their mouths with the flash forward Mystery Grave.
Yeah, the flash forward in Arrow's just been terrible this year.
It was awful.
Hardly any of it's been relevant to the plot whatsoever. Whereas at least last season's flash forwards and the ones in the prior seasons are actually relevant to what was going on in the present.
Here's my problem with Arrow, apart from the fact that I'm just not the audience for the street level stuff. And I didn't realize that this was an issue until they brought Supergirl in. But with Supergirl, you have a whole bunch of characters in Universe 38, Earth 38, whose worlds are literally gone, who are the last of their species or next to the last of their species, who are escaping, world-altering blight. And compared to those characters, the characters on Earth 1 are frankly have first world problems. And they have, you look at Oliver and it's like, suck it up. You got trapped on a really awful island. You were tortured. Yes, I get it. PTSD is bad, but Jesus Christ, you got a whole universe of people over on the Supergirl end who really just are not having a good time.
Yeah, who are homeless, who basically don't have planets left to go back to.
They don't have planets left. Or in the case of Martian Manhunter, they technically have a planet left, but he can't go there because he's the last of their kind, and they would just summarily execute him.
That's something they need to do more with on Supergirl.
Yes.
Instead of the lesbian storyline with Anix and the detective. Not that it's actually bothering me.
No.
But it's just sort of like
it's soapy. It's soapy in CW. It's basically they're proving that sexual orientation aside, the CW relationship plots are basically all CW relationship plots.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm running out of steam. I mean, take for example Mon-El and Kara, right? They've got this Romeo and Juliet plotline coming up to justify the musical, and she's going to get mad at him for keeping that secret from him, that he is the prince of the Daxamites. And I'm like, sweetie, that conversation shouldn't even be the conversation. That's because the fact that he lied about being the prince of the Daxamites is not the issue. The issue is he allowed her to think that he was the last of his kind.
Mm-hmm.
Because the planet's gone, but he didn't mention the fact that the species was not. And this is a girl who's, with the exception of her cousin, her species is basically gone because they haven't introduced Candor yet. Uh-huh. And plus he allowed Jean Jones to think he was the last of his kind by omission, and that poor guy really is the last of his subspecies. So if nothing else, Mon-El needs to apologize to Jean Jones as much as Kara. Mm. And they're never going to address that. They're going to just go, oh, relationship drama, and forget all about the deeper existential problems. Because putting whatever they're feeling emotionally aside, even if everything was copacetic between them, what is she supposed to do? Become the princess of Daxam? And give up being Supergirl because he's the Prince of Daxam, and just accept the fact that his in-laws are going to think she's trash and that they're going to be angry that she survived, and that they wouldn't mind if the Kryptonians were completely gone, and because of the Romeo and Juliet internal logic of the musical, they're going to go, love conquers all, and she'll forgive him because those completely ignore the deeper issues, the issues that would logically actually keep them apart and should keep them apart, mm-hmm. because Mon-El did not think it through. He didn't realize that she is, as I said, existentially coming at this from a different place than he is. Mm-hmm. And it's just really short-sighted and simplistic and really pisses me off.
Yeah, do you know what really pissed me off the other week, though, on Supergirl? And I really tore into it in my review of it as well. It's the episode where they find Jeremiah.
Oh, God, they didn't notice his bionic arm. Like, what the actual
they did notice his bionic arm. They basically, he passed it off as saying it was punishment for such and such. That wasn't my problem. My problem was Mon-El, out of the lot of them, was the only one that was suspicious about how easy it was for them to get Jeremiah back.
Yes.
And Jeremiah was easing his way back into the favour of the family. Alex was too accepting of it, and so was Kara for that matter. And the one person that should have been suspicious, John Jones, wasn't. It was, it was almost like they gave John Jones's default role to Mon-El in order to create some tension between Mon-El and Kara. And it just didn't make sense at all. It was just sort of like stupid. It was just fucking dumb.
It's the internal logic thing. They're shoving Mon-El down our throats. They're trying to make us care about him when logically, as I said, as I've outlined in my whole thing, there are reasons why, even if she forgave him for the lies, there are reasons why this couple would still not be a couple.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the second part of the episode where it's sort of like all resolves was actually better than the first.
Yes.
But but the first part of the episode was just terrible. It's just sort
of like
awful. really bad. And, sort of like, it was interesting, doing the DC show last night, when we were talking about Supergirl. And I gave Arrow a relatively high mark.
It was one of their better episodes this season. It was.
In comparison to what I've done on other weeks on Arrow. And Jeff gave, Legends a relatively high mark, but he didn't like the Day-O thing. But that said, the Legends episode this week and the one last week, in terms of the time travel and such, it made sense. It wasn't overly timey-wimey, sort of like Doctor Who-y.
No, and I absolutely loved Commander Steele's plan to hide his shard on the moon. That was so cool. That was honestly very, very cool.
Yeah, it was genius. Sort of like hiding in the staff of the flag that's on the moon. I thought that was really, really mean, talk about hiding something in plain sight.
Yeah. I was bothered by the fact that so many of the JSA are being killed or left for dead, but then I read the canon storylines for the JSA, and a good many of them actually do die in the canon narrative. Oh, so they are acknowledging that in a roundabout way for this. Mm-hmm. And Legends this season has been much, much stronger, although I have missed Rip. I'm glad he's back.
Yeah, I'd missed Rip as well, but now that he's back, it's going to be interesting to see how the dynamic changes again, because at the moment, sort of like Sarah Nance is in charge, and all of a sudden she's a mad scientist as well.
Yeah,
they changed the internal logic of her character to suit her taking over the ship, sort of thing.
Yeah,
when it's really true. She's just a warrior. She's and that's something that kind of infuriates me as well.
Yeah.
These very sudden changes to the characters.
I'll tell you, but the one thing I want from Legends, and to a lesser extent from Flash, is more of Clarissa Stein. Because they're almost treating Clarissa Stein, his wife, as a potted plant. And considering that they now have this daughter, you would think you would want to hear from her and hear what she has to say. And I would love a crossover storyline that involved all the women of the DCU that were the guys for some plot reason can't easily participate. And so Clarissa Stein and Lily Stein and Caitlin and Lila Diggle and as many of the Canaries as they want, and all of the other women just get together, and they're the ones who've got to sort it out. And in the process, we actually meet Clarissa Stein and give and give the actress something to actually do.
Mm-hmm. So that'd be quite interesting to see happen. I mean, I'm loving Mick Rory in Legends. He's my favourite character out of a lot of them.
He's the justification for Legends in terms of actual character growth, because in season 1, my first thought was, what are they going to do with Heatwave?
Yeah, especially when they got rid of Captain Cold.
Yeah, and to have him be Kronos like that was absolute genius. I mean, that the Kronos reveal justified season 1 to me. Mm-hmm. And I really loved that. And they've done so much work with Mick. It's not even funny.
I just love the opening salvo of it, on
that was beautiful.
Episode,
We destroyed the time pigs, and then he just goes on.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost, in last season we had we interviewed the young lad that played the younger Mick Rory.
Yes.
And, granted he didn't have much to do, but it'd be fun to go back and see him again at some point in the future.
Yes.
To see how he's progressing. Has he gone a completely different way to Mick Rory?
The other thing I want to see is, given that the Time Masters are effectively gone, what is happening with those orphans that the surrogate mother character, it's played by Celia Amory, has been taken care of.
Yep. Yeah.
Because they're kind of a loose thread. I mean, does Rip go back and leave the ship and go back and help her raise them and find different functions for them, or does something else happen with them? So
maybe they form a new wave of Time Masters.
Yeah.
You don't really know, but it's been a fun show to watch this season.
It's actually right now it's my favorite of the DC shows. All due respect to Jeff, I get that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I am absolutely loving it.
Yeah, well, so like they're teasing me about Deo. I shouldn't have been able to sing that so well. That's all I can say.
No, Victor Garber is a god. The man is absolutely a god.
I felt really sorry for him having to do that though, because that kind of took me out of the episode a little bit.
I think it was meant to. I think that was kind of the point. But yeah, it was very effective. And I gotta say, whatever you think of Kara and Mon-El, the musical episode is going to be worth it just for seeing John Barham and Jesse L. Martin and Victor Garber playing mob bosses, singing. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, that'd be fun. I mean, that's tonight's episode, right?
The start of it is tonight. They have the fallout with Mon-El where she goes, "Oh my God, you lied to me." We meet Terry Hatcher and Kevin Sorbo as his parents. And by the way, I kind of figured out he was the Prince of Daxam the minute they mentioned that there was a Prince of Daxam. So it was like the worst kept narrative secret ever. Mm-hmm. But having Terry Hatcher and Kevin Sorbo on is going to make that worthwhile. And then they have the kickoff of the musical episode on tonight's Supergirl, and then the musical proper is going to be tomorrow night's Flash.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool. And then it will carry on over into Arrow.
No. Although I wish it would, because Arrow, like I said, the problem I have with Arrow is just too damn. It's the man pain has become self-indulgent.
Yeah, but you know, it is in line with the comics.
It's true.
So you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. Oliver's always going to be riddled with guilt over various things that he's had to do on his journey to become the Arrow. So,
yeah, but it's like he doesn't learn anything. They reset him every year, so it's like they just find different ways to recycle the same man pain.
Do you know what I'd love to see on Arrow? It probably never happened because it's so bloody grounded in the street level. But they did an excellent run of comics back in the 70s of Green Arrow, where he teamed up with Green Lantern, and they kind of journey across America, getting involved with various sort of like scenarios where they're sort of like helping clean up the streets. So it's urban, but it's sort of like with that added influence of Green Arrow, of Green Lantern.
Green Lantern, yeah. Since we're not getting Green Lantern anytime soon.
But it was also interesting because the political differences. In the comics, and this is also kind of relevant in the TV show as well, given some of the policies that Mayor Queen has been espousing. But in the comics, Oliver Queen is very, very much a Democrat.
And Hal is more conservative.
Hal's more of a Republican sort of thing, and that dichotomy between the two factions, the two different sides, left and right, in the comic book, you know, that played throughout.
That would be good. That would be good.
So I just wish they'd do that. I wish to sort of like find someone to play the Green Lantern and just do it. Because that would be an epic season.
It would be an epic season. It would probably be the best season they've done.
You know, they could, you know, and they wouldn't need Felicity for it.
No.
They could take Diggle along for the ride.
They could do that.
And maybe even sort of like some of the other characters, but it'd just be a brilliant season. And also, you know, you have the little blue aliens, you know, the
Guardians,
the Guardians who Green Lantern works for. One of them sort of like kind of tags along and comes in and out of the story as well.
Oh, cool.
But, I
like them.
It was a fantastic comic, and I just wish I'd not sort of like giving it away so easily. I'm going to have to repurchase it at some point. But, you know, they need to do that on Arrow.
Yeah.
Sorry, they just got to do it. Because there was no Hal Jordan going out into space. It was all set on Earth.
Yeah.
You know?
So all they need to do is CGI Hal, CGI the little Guardian guy, and then they just can go forward.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even have to have Hal using the ring that much either.
No.
You know?
Just enough to like remind people that the ring is there.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, you know, you're fine.
And Hal Jordan can fly, so you know if they can afford to make Supergirl, they can afford to have Hal Jordan pop up in a season of Arrow. I mean, come on, let's do it. Let's be sensible. Let's give the fans what they want.
Yeah.
You know, because I do know that a whole lot of the DC fans will probably want to see that.
Yes.
You know, because of that comic, and it's sort of like, and I think if the creators of Arrow don't do it, they're damn foolish for skipping out on an opportunity to do something really, really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, anything else we can talk about? Is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, I don't think we'll have anything new until all of next week's shows have played out again.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, well, that about wraps things up for this week. I'd like to thank the women from Yodo, the interview earlier on. And you can find Yodo or You Only Die Once on YouTube. There's actually a film, and their series is going to be premiering sometime later in the spring. And I'd also like to thank Raissa for spending time to do the TV segment with me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
It's been fun.
Well, that's all we've got time for this week. So we'll see you soon.